It's that time of year again for another CMS update. So, start with the serious stuff first before we get into something a bit more fun. Important messages. So, we've got 3. Number 1, this is out of our control, but with the programming language that our software is written in, the version that the majority of you are going to be on right now, PHP 5.6, security support for that is going to end at the end of this year, December 2018. We currently support the version that we're going to start moving you to, but if you're self-hosting, you need to be upgrading your own servers. So that's something we've already started sending you guys some instructions and some FAQs and what needs to happen there, but just putting it back on your radars that at some point you're going to need to update your PHP version on your servers. If you're hosting with Spacecraft, you won't need to do anything, but they will be in touch with you to say, we're going to upgrade the version of your PHP on your servers. And if you've written any custom developments, your developers in-house might need to spend some time just checking that there's not going to be any problems moving between the two. Next message, 2016 support for Windows Server and SQL Server 2016 it's finished on the CMS side, it's about to be finished on the XFP side. So if you are thinking of moving, if you need to start putting those wheels in motion for purchasing new licenses for your servers, this is kind of around the time when you might want to start looking at that because it's imminently available. Last one is the Xform standard, which has been part of our product for a long time, but we have started phasing out. That's going to start being removed from the software 1st of August 2019. So August 2019 is the key date then for when you're going to want to have probably ported, migrated any Xform standard content and found another solution for that. Goodbye serious stuff. Hello new features. We've put out a lot of new features since the last time that I spoke to you guys in Birmingham, if you happen to be there. So we've got our 2016 Windows Server support, our 2016 SQL Server support. We're now compatible with our new PHP versions, 7.2 and 7.1. And we've introduced, I think I mentioned this briefly in the Birmingham Academy, but we've introduced document URL slugs and category URL slugs, which means that you can put in those really nice URLs where you have kind of like a little category name and a succinct version of your document, really memorable for your customers. Don't need to create any friendly URLs around that. And we're taking out the IDs. There are some professional services if you're using our current template set. We'll get into those if you want to go down that path, but just letting you know those are out there. We have updated our Galaxies publishing to include now all supplements. So previously, if you had a little Galaxies site, that would only have access to further information. We've made a whole lot more supplements available to those Galaxies because feedback coming from customers was that you really wanted things like contact details to be added, navigation blocks to be added. Those are there now. There's a slight caveat if you've had custom front ends, you might need to speak to, if you had any custom template work around your Galaxy, you might need to speak to Spacecraft about whether or not those are supported at the moment, but there's definitely the possibility for those to be added quite simply if you have. We have added the supplement manager as part of that work. So now Galaxies, you can go through and start auditing the supplements on that site, which wasn't there before. We've redesigned the Galaxies site management interface to make that flow a lot nicer, make it more like a little wizard experience when you're setting up a site. We've moved our Google Maps integration into the integration hub, put some basic improvements around that, and how you manage the keys for your Google Maps if you're using that integration. Big part of work that we did is that we've added third-party integration for CMS authentication, which is a mouthful. So if you have previously been interested in looking at things like Azure and SAML solutions for your integration, so that if you've got a back office identity management system that you want your authors to be using, and not have to be remembering a separate username and password, we've now got the ability to start integrating with those. We have also, and there'll be much more messaging around that around this in the future, we started splitting the utilities menu because that had started to get to be something where you had to scroll. There was like maybe 30 items in there. We've now split that into, so we've got separate utilities and settings menu, just to help people see all those items in one glance. There's some really interesting things coming in the pipeline. I'll show you some quick screenshots in a moment as well. The main one is something that's come out through your feature requests, which is workflow comments. So when you, as an author, are sending a new item of content through to your approver, you can now, or you very shortly will be able to give them a little message saying what you've done and why you think it should be approved. And when you approve something, you'll also be able to put a little message in there, maybe back to the author, about if you've had to go through and correct any changes. And the neat thing is that these are going to be then stored in the history of the document. So when you come back later to go in and have a read through the history of your documents, seeing who's been making changes, who's been making those live, you can also now see a little bit more contextual information around why they were approving something, why they were sending something off to be approved, and also we'll be storing. Previously you could add comments to rejecting content, but those weren't shown in the history of the document, and now those will be shown in the history of the document so that you can see why something's been sent back. Just giving you a lot more information if you need it for your audit trails. We have started work on another big feature request, which was around the category content audit report. So when you are probably kind of annually, biannually, taking a big look at your site as a whole to see what content have we got on there, what content is being updated, what content's not being updated, you can now export like a big inventory of all the content, who owns it, when it was last updated, what categories it sits through, what sort of content it is, to kind of to really kind of give you the backbone. I mean, it's not going to give you all the things probably that you want to check in your content audit, but you could import it then into Excel as the basis for a continuing content audit. And the third big one, which has come through feature request, was looking at events and how you set your event reoccurrence options. So we've got a number, gosh, this is going to be a memory strain, isn't it? Which ones can I remember? A number of different ways of setting how frequently an event occurs, such as daily, whether it happens kind of like on this day every month, whether it happens on this date every month. And we've had feedback from customers that although that's great, when an event reoccurs on a public holiday, for instance, you'd quite like to be able to take that event out of there so that you can then say, keep your event all set up, not have to have multiple setups for the same event, but I specifically identify that date the event won't be happening. So if you've got, say, a meeting happening every Monday, you don't want to have that occurring on a bank holiday Monday, and you'll be able to specifically identify that day should not be occurring in your calendar. We've also added some options such as being able to say an event happens on multiple days a week. So you can say it's like Tuesday and Thursday without having to have a separate event for the Tuesdays and a separate event for the Thursdays. Combining everything and making it a lot easier for you guys to manage. We have personalisation, which I believe was mentioned in the keynote. I've not got many details on that one to show you at this point, but I think they'll come up in another academy with some screenshots and interesting things to see. But that's looking at how you can identify customers, set some rules around your content so that you can show slightly different versions. Currently, we're working on our event recurrence work, our workflow comments, and our content audit report. In the near term, we've got a couple of integrations coming up. We've got our MailChimp integration, and we're also looking at the Cluedo search engine for integration. And slightly longer term, we've got document import, export, custom fields being added to some of our content types so that you can set slightly different groups of fields to show for different sorts of content, and personalization tools showing different versions of a page to different users. So, feature requests, before we get into our game, which was related to feature requests. Current top 5, we've got our category content audit report, which I've told you we're already starting to work on. Event list interfaces, I'm going to show you a quick slide in a second of how we're looking to change the interfaces for lists. Third one is category restrictions being optional in roles. Fourth, home pages being allowed to take those offline and assign directory records to a registered user. So if you've got a directory that you set up and you want to be able to assign those records to a standard organisation, say if you've got where you've got kind of lists of your the services being provided to children, being able to then assign those to people that you know who manage those records, rather than them having to send that through to you first and then being able to assign it, to manage it. So these, I'd say we've all essentially accepted, and we're starting work on those now. We're currently up to number 2, but we're going to keep on over the course of the year working our way down to deliver these to you. This is the start of our list work, so we're going to be looking at making these lists a lot more constant, so that as people move between different parts of the CMS, the list views accurately reflect their use cases. A lot of feedback that we've got is that there's not necessarily information on the list views for them to make good decisions about the content that they're looking for. Some of the bits that we've been asked for is being able to make these lists sortable, so that'll be in there, being able to sort the content by the column, switching the columns from ascending to descending. And then we've also kind of like looking at adding filters to tables so that you can then start typing in a keyword and the list will shorten to show you only the items that you have access to which have that keyword in. I think I've mentioned my process a few times at academies, but just again, we do listen to all your feedback, all your feature requests, and once a quarter I go through and we gather those up, make a note who's asking for them, how many people are asking for them, and then do a quick scoring to work out what that top 5 is. And then the best performing ones then move into our production. Activity! We need your help. So we've done quite a lot of the feature requests now. We've moved them all through into our process. They're starting to be scoped and we're starting to find our requirements. And a lot of the ones that are left are feature requests which only one customer has asked for, which makes it really hard for me to work out which one goes as our next priority. So, for it to be interesting, to do a little dot vote, and with all our customers, I've picked out a few of the feature requests which I think if the customers looked at them, a lot of people would probably have a similar need. And to get an idea of which of these are then your priority, we have some feature sheets. Just going to nick this one. If you've not seen them on the desk, there's like maybe 2 per table or 1 or 2 per table, and then we've got a little sheet of stickers on there. If you could stick a dot, you get 3 votes. Could you stick a dot next to each of the features that you think would be super and that you would prioritise if you were the product owner for the CMS? That would be cool, and we're going to go for some wisdom of crowds to decide. Results in after our dot voting, and in reverse order of popularity, we've got number 5, our drag drop reordering the pages. Number 4, reusable templates in the editor. Number 3, scheduled page approval. Number 2, Google Analytics. And our number 1 most popular item was scheduled announcements.